Here's how you buy a house. I'm Kyle Wong with the Moxie Property Group here in Denver, Colorado. If you have any questions about the topics I'm going to go through today, feel free to reach out to me using the link below. So today we're going to be talking about how to buy a house. It might seem really simple, and it might seem like an advertisement from a real estate professional, but I can assure you it's not, because it's actually amazing how little people know about the home buying process. Because while people like me, people on my team, we try to make it as simple as possible for you as the consumer, there's actually a lot that goes into it. Now, it's not rocket science. I'm not going to claim that you should need a degree or any of these things to go through the home buying process, but there's so many little moving parts that go into it, and if you miss a single one, there could be very serious financial or other implications. So it is a big deal, so I want to walk you through it as a consumer, make sure you fully understand and feel comfortable with it. So first and foremost, timing. So when you go to buy a house, generally when you're actually starting to shop for a home, saying, hey, I'm in a good position, I think I'm ready to go, you're about 3 to 6 months out when you're actively shopping. And what that means is you should be hiring a real estate agent about 6 months before you want to close on your house. And the reason why that is always my first point of contact, or perhaps even your lender, is because your real estate agent is going to get as much information as possible about you, about your situation, about your finances, about where you want to go, about how you want things to go. And they should be planning that about 6 months ahead of time. Now, the actual under contract process is only about 30 days, but within 6 months, you can start to see, hey, are there any big market shifts that you anticipate? Hey, is there anything I should know about given my current situation, whether I'm PCSing because I'm in the military, or I've got kids in school, or finances are a little bit wonky because we own a business or something like that. 6 months is generally what you want to see. However, I've seen people get in touch with a real estate agent. For example, I've had people that I've done deals with who I've been in contact with for years, or I've known for years. And the reason why that's important is because I don't want to just work with you to buy a house. It's like, a lot of people always think, all right, I'll talk to you when I'm ready to close next month. Actually, that's oftentimes too late, and it puts us both in a bad scenario. And the reason why is because I want to walk you through whether you're ready to buy a house or not. Maybe that's just your goal someday, right? In a few years, to put you in the best position to actually purchase a home, and purchase a home comfortably in a place that you actually want to be in, right? And everybody has different goals. Some people want just a starter home. Hey, I just want to stop paying rent. Or they want to upsize, or they want to downsize because they're retiring, or maybe it's an investment. So it all depends on your goals and what you want. But the reason why I even work with people, for example, hey, I had a bankruptcy a few years ago, or I have really bad credit, or I don't have any money saved. I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck. Great. Guess what? I still want to talk with you, because the thing is, I work with accountants, I work with CPAs, I work with tax people, I work with all my lenders, I work with people who just want to go through and not like life coaching, but like financial coaching, of getting you prepared to get a budget together, to organize your finances. Maybe you own a business, or you're in the marijuana industry, right? That's kind of a wonky one. So just getting your finances in order to prepare you, because sometimes it can take weeks or months or years to get you ready to buy a home. So I want to talk to you then, because if I talk to you early on, we can start a plan, right? Get a game plan together and get you prepared to buy a house down the line, so that when the time comes that you actually are ready to pull the trigger, you're not scrambling to get your taxes, you're not scrambling to get your finances together, you're ready to go. So that's why I like to talk to you as soon as possible. And if you have any interest in buying a home whatsoever, you should talk to your local real estate professional first. I can actually get you connected with people across the country, or even across the world, so I can get you in touch, vetting them using my process to help them prepare you for buying a home wherever you're at. So all that aside, 3 to 6 months is generally where I like to start. But again, with that all being said, you can start talking to a real estate professional as early as possible. So from there, though, about the 6 month process being on the longer end, 3 months being on the shorter end of things, what you want to start doing is going through things like your finances, right? Things like your budget, right? What am I comfortable spending on a home? And then from there, some of those things are questions that you answer yourself, but also the things that I like to talk you through, because maybe you can afford, right, an $850,000 house, but really with your goals and what you want to do, talking with your financial planner or whoever that is, that you really only want to spend 700 or 600 or whatever that is. So just because you can afford something doesn't mean you necessarily want to spend that money. So that's why it's so important for us to talk. So the next big thing that I always do is when I have my meeting with my clients initially, I call it the initial buyer's consultation. I actually walk through everything I'm about to go through here. So two big things is when we have the consultation, we can do it in person or generally over Zoom is how I like to do it. I want to do two things. I want to walk away getting a game plan, right? Making sure that you're set for the future, and one of those things is sending you listings, right? So we call it our custom automated home alert. And what we do is I go through your dream home form, and so I walk you through what do you need for location, right? Do you drive to work? Do you commute? Do you need something on a little bit of acreage? All kinds of different uses, bedrooms, bathrooms, right? HOA, townhouse, condo, that kind of stuff. And so we start talking through those things so that I can start sending you listings, and then as you start seeing what's going live in your area, you can start to say, hey, I like this area, I don't like this area. I like the rooms, or I like the properties with 3 bedrooms and an office as opposed to 4 bedrooms, stuff like that. So we start to whittle it down as we go along. And the reason why that's important is because you can start to see what homes are selling for in your area, and you can start to say, hey, maybe our $400,000 budget's not going to be enough. Let's go and bump it up to $450,000, or let's move to a slightly different area, things like that. And then the second thing I want you to walk out of after this consultation is I give you a 30,000 foot overview of the whole process, right? So from start, like from searching to a home to actually closing and handing you the keys to your new home. I want to walk you through what that looks like, and then most importantly, when you'd be expected to bring money to the table so that there are no surprises, because the last thing that I want as a real estate agent is any surprises and you say, oh shoot, I wasn't expecting that, I didn't anticipate that, like I'm not prepared for this. That's my job. I want to prepare you ahead of time so that there are no surprises and you know exactly when you're expected to bring money to the table and how much, so that this should be a good, a fun, and easy process for you as the consumer. So that being said, I walk through all of this, but I'm going to walk you through as if you're my buyer right now. So next thing, generally, I like to say 3 months just because 90 days is generally when a pre-approval expires. But about 90 days, 3 months or so before you're ready to close is when we get you pre-approved for the loan. So as soon as I have that buyer's consultation, I say, hey, if you're not buying cash for this property, which most people aren't, let's get you in touch with a lender. So I have a bunch of lender partners, but really I like to work with brokers just because they are just like me. They're searching for you in your best interest, right? They owe you a fiduciary responsibility, meaning they legally are obliged to put your interests above their own, which means they're not like lenders. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about them, but typically, lenders that represent one company or a certain bank, they're kind of like salespeople, right? Like car dealers. They have a certain inventory and a certain product, and they just want to sell it to you. However, like me, like my lender brokers, what they can do is they shop around for all different kinds of products and they give you what's best, right? And the reason why I think that's so helpful is because you don't actually pay a charge to them. I'm not going to talk too much on it, but they just get you what suits you best, according to your needs, and get you on your way. So that is very important because we get a pre-approval letter, and that tells us exactly how much you can afford so that we know at least the absolute maximum of what we should be looking at. Because the last thing I want to do is start taking you on showings and looking at homes that you can't afford, and then you get your hopes up, and then it crushes your dreams, and that's sad. So we don't want to do that. But also, when we go to submit our offer, we actually submit the pre-approval letter with the offer to let them know, hey, we can actually afford this. This is what we want to do. So then from there, we start looking at homes, right? Like I said, I'm sending you listings. We go through that consultation, send you what you like. You tell me what you like. You tell me what you don't like. And we start whittling it down. And then you say, hey, I've got a few. I really like this neighborhood. Let's go look at 2 or 3 in this neighborhood. Great. Start shopping for homes. We go look around. This is what is commonly called showings. So open the door, walk you through, talk you through the home, and then you can get a better idea of what homes actually look like, because photos, they're marketing, right? Everybody wants their home to look the best. So they take the nicest photos and the best lighting, they clean everything up, and then you see a home in person, and oftentimes, maybe not oftentimes, but sometimes it can be a little disappointing. Maybe there's a bad smell you didn't know about from the photos, cats or animals, or, it's just kind of musty or something like that. Maybe they smoked in the home and didn't disclose that up front. Lots of different things could occur, or maybe just the layout isn't quite what you expected in person. So it's very important to go and see homes in person. However, I work with tons of clients who come over, across the country. They PCS from the military, or they're coming in from another country, things like that. I do virtual showings, which means I go and FaceTime them, or I send them a high quality video. And I say myself, I'm like, hey, honestly, it smells musty in here. I don't think this is a good buy. Let's go ahead and skip this one, or something like that. So I'm looking out for you. I'm your advisor. And then when we go to look at these homes, it gives you a better idea of like, okay, what was my drive time like? Is it quiet in the backyard? Things like that. All the things that you don't really consider when you first look at a home, but maybe 6 months down the line, you'll start to realize are important. So after that, we find a home that you really love. And you're like, hey, Kyle, I think this is the one. Let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. Let's buy this. Great. So what we do from there is we go and we submit an offer. There are lots of little nuances. I'm not going to share all my secrets on this one. I'll talk to you individually. But when we go to submit our offer, we want to make sure a couple things. Is there competition? What does the market look like? Does this house have proper comps for it? As in, are there comparable sales that support the asking price of this home? And the reason why that is so important is because we want to make sure if you're getting financing on it, that it appraises. So we'll talk more on that later. But we go to submit an offer. Okay, we write up all our terms, how much we're going to pay for the house, what that's going to look like, and typically a 30-day close is what is normal. So, meaning when you go to submit the offer, 30 days from that point, when they accept, is when we close on the house, hand you your keys, you're good to go. You can do longer closes, you can do shorter closes, and for most intents and purposes, we're just saying, hey, it's just you or your family moving into a single family house, a townhouse, a condo, something like that. Not like an investment property or like really weird financing or stuff like that. Just pretty typical. I'm getting a loan on a house I want to move in as my primary residence, stuff like that. So from there, we submit that pre-approval letter like we talked about, and then that's when the clock starts ticking, right? And then within the first few days, what you want to do is go and get your inspection scheduled. And the reason why that is so important is because the inspector works for you. So you as the buyers, you hire your inspector, and they represent you to go in the house, and I think of them as like general practitioners, right? They're not surgeons. They're not doing anything specialty like roofing or plumbing, but they go in and they say, hey, this looks good. This looks good. Hey, I would take a look out, keep an extra eye out for that. And they kind of advise you. It's like your dad going on showings with you, right? Advising you and telling you, hey, I think this is kind of wonky, or like maybe you should get somebody to check this out. But at the end of the day, they work for you. So that can be anywhere from, let's say, $500 to about $750. And here in Colorado, there are two things that I think are super important to add on to the general inspection. So one is kind of specific to Colorado, but it's also in other states as well, is radon. So radon is a carcinogenic gas that comes up just through the soil, which sounds crazy if you've never heard of it, but look into it. So always get radon tests done when you do an inspection. I think it's always worth it if you're going to be living there. Next thing is a sewer scope. So sewer scope means they go down the toilet, they check the main line that goes out to the road. And the reason why that's so important is because it can be a $15,000 to $20,000 repair. That's going to be all yours if you don't know about that ahead of time, right? Assuming there are problems with it. So I think it's worth it. $150 to get that tested is so much better than $15,000. Like, just trust me on that one. So the other big thing after the inspection is, let's say everything's all good to go, right? Everything looks good. Once you get association documents, this is much more prevalent when it comes to like condos and townhouses, or even neighborhoods with HOAs, but mostly condos because of the single building. So with HOAs, the homeowners association, they can do things called assessments. So let's say you live in a building, you had a really bad storm, and a bunch of the windows, the exterior windows were broken. Usually the HOA is going to be responsible for that. So they can incur a charge, what's called an assessment fee. And what that means is, hey, we just spent I don't know, $150,000 replacing windows for the exterior or a roof or whatever that is. Well, now on top of your HOA dues, they actually add that fee on top, and so your HOA can skyrocket. So always ask your insurance person, whoever that is, hey, do I have coverage for that? And it's very inexpensive. I live here in a condo in Denver by Cheeseman Park, and that's what I did, because you do not want to be the person that all of a sudden has to pay $13,000 one month. It's crazy. So I've seen it happen. It happens before. It's very real, and it's very worth it. So keep an eye out for that. So inspection goes great. Everything's good. And the next big thing, again, this is like a 30,000 foot overview. If you want more technical details, just reach out. Inspection goes good. The next big thing for you as the buyer is the appraisal. And the appraisal is kind of like an inspection, but for the lender, right? So your lender is loaning you hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a lot of money, right? They want to know that what they're loaning you money for is actually worth it. So when they go in, and let's say you're buying a home for $650,000, you put in an offer for $650,000, your lender sends an appraiser to go out, and they want to say either yes, it is worth $650,000, or no, it's not worth $650,000. And the reason why that's important is because if it's not, then you have three options as the buyer. You can either walk away, you can have the seller drop the price to the appraised value, or you as the buyer can bring the additional cash at closing. So you don't want any surprises. That's why I, as a real estate agent, do so much research ahead of time to make sure that the home actually is valued properly at what it should be, so that we don't run into an issue of low appraisals, what that's called. So after the appraisal, you might think, great, that's it, we're good, but we're not there yet. So what's super important is the process, if you're financing, of course, goes through underwriting. And so basically that means your lender is going through to verify that the information that you gave up front when you got your pre-approval letter is still current, right? Meaning you have the same job, you didn't blow like hundreds of thousands of dollars, stuff like that, things like that. So what you don't want to do is go and celebrate and get a new car. You don't want to go and open a second line of credit, like a credit card or, I don't know, student loan, something crazy like that. Basically, any big financial decision in this under contract process, please tell your lender. Please talk to your lender and make sure you go with them first to let them know, because you don't want anything screwing up this process. So after that, that's when we get to closing, and this is when everybody has those questions. Oh, by the way, that usually costs anywhere from $450 to $750 as well for the appraisal, okay? So be sure to have that set aside. And one thing I actually failed to mention is when you go up front and you submit the offer, you always submit what's called earnest money. I can't believe I missed this, but earnest money is generally 1% of the purchase price, or at least here in Colorado, no less than $5,000. So that is something that I would have set aside, and it is negotiable. But that's money that you submit with the offer and with the pre-approval letter saying, hey, I'm earnest about this. Often people call it escrow money. And that is money that either you can get back at closing, or it just rolls right into your down payment, into your closing costs, stuff like that. Again, it's your money. It's just held while you're under contract or in escrow. So very important. So after that, you go through underwriting, you get the go ahead, everything's good, you're clear to close. Now we get to closing, which is the exciting part and the expensive part. But yeah, so once you get to that process, you're at the closing table, you're signing so many documents, you wish you had a stamp, but you can't. Then once you get to that point, closing costs are generally about 1% to 2% of the purchase price. And your down payment, I won't even talk about the down payment because it varies so much. Some people still think you need 20%, you don't. It's great, sure, but there's so many options with that. And the thing is, often for my buyers, I like to work in what's called seller concessions or seller credits, meaning the proceeds that would go to the seller actually go to you as the buyer. So oftentimes my buyers like to use that when I negotiate that in it for, let's say, closing costs or buying down your rate, because I know the interest rates have jumped up pretty recently and pretty quickly. So that's a big concern for people. So we talk about that. Closing costs are 1% to 2% of the purchase price. And then after that, you give them their check, you wire the money, you do whatever you need to do, and then hand you the keys. You're all good to go. You are now a homeowner. Congratulations. So with that being said, your first payment is not due generally 60 days after closing, meaning you have a little bit of time until your first payment. And the reason why is because a lot of stuff is paid up front. when you're closing on the house, so you have a little bit of time. So if you have a lease that you're still paying for, you have a little bit of time, or whatever things you want to take care of beforehand. So that's pretty much the process. Again, I'm trying to give you a very high level overview so that it's very straightforward and easy. However, it can be a very crazy process, and there are lots of bumps, so many things that could happen along the way. So again, if you have any questions about this, I'm Kyle Wong with the Moxie Property Group here in Colorado, but I have partners everywhere. So if you just want to ask me, I've got insurance people, I've got title people, I've got lenders who can walk you through this process, financial advisors. I would love to help walk you through this, whether you're still renting or you're experienced, you're an investor, or you just want to talk about a new home. Give me a call. Again, you can reach out using the link below, but thank you for listening. I'll catch you guys next time.